Hey, how are y'all doing? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, y'all. All right, listen, I'm ready to get this party started. Game time. All right. So, a couple of months ago, I did a video about the word busy and why we should avoid the use of this particular word. And since I have done that particular video, I've had several people come and tell me about how they have decided not to use that word anymore. And it meant so much to me. I'm so serious. Like, it meant a lot to me to know that, like, people listen to what I said, because when I looked up the word busy, there was nothing about this particular word that sounded like anything I wanted to be. And it was really just my goal when I did that video to like share that with other people, not really knowing that so many people would share with me how they changed the way they use the word. And so I got to thinking the other day, and I was like, what other words do people have a tendency to use and not really give much thought to what that word actually means, or, what happens when you use that particular word. And so, you know what? I think Wednesdays will be a great day for me to come and talk to people about the power of their words. So I said, you know what? I'm going to create Word Power Wednesday. So I'll be here every Wednesday. I want to get the time solid. I'm a little later than I wanted to be tonight, but most of the time, this is what I want to say. Most of the time, people are not even really like, we're speaking and talking without giving a whole lot of thought to what it is that we are actually saying, right? Which, you know, I am guilty at times of saying things and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Let me fix my words, right? And why wouldn't that be the case when the word says that life and death are in the power of the tongue? So our words have power. Like, words are powerful. Power words. Our words create whatever we say, we create it, right? So then why do we say so many things without thinking? All right. So my goal for Word Power Wednesday is to help you think about what you're saying, and bigger than what you're saying, I want you to think about what those words create. Know this: words create. All right. So a word I hear people say sometimes, or a lot of times, is overwhelmed. People will easily say, when they have a lot to do, or they have a long to-do list, or they feel a little stressed, maybe frustrated, or some pressure, like things are moving at a fast pace, they'll say, I feel overwhelmed. They might say, I'm overwhelmed, right? Which basically means I have a lot of things to do. I got a lot to get done. But I want to pause, okay? So I'm gonna pull this up because I want to look at what the word overwhelm means. All right. And I want to challenge you, after I look up this word, to change your use of this particular word. So the word overwhelm, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up on my computer. Yeah. Hold on, give me a sec. All right, the word overwhelm, it means a lot of things depending on the source, but it means upset, overthrow, to cover completely, to overcome by superior force or numbers, or to overpower in thought or feeling. I'm sorry, I want to look up this other definition because there was another definition I saw and it wasn't good either. Okay. Uh, Bury or drown beneath a huge mass, defeat completely, give too much of a thing to someone, or inundate, right? All of these things. So I want to, before I said all of these things on the negative side, because you could be overwhelmed in a great way. You could be inundated with joy. You could be overwhelmed with peace. You could be overwhelmed with happiness. You could be overwhelmed with, happy emotions. So there is a positive side to the use of the word overwhelm, but most people don't use it that way. Okay. So when we are speaking in the negative sense, when someone says, oh, I feel overwhelmed, and we're talking about the large amount of things that we have to do. All right. What we're doing is giving life to these things, overpowering us, right? Inundating us to overcome us with superior force, which means these things are more powerful than you, right? I also want to give you some synonyms of the word overwhelm because they weren't good either. All right. One was conquer, right? So we're admitting that the things that we have to do or this to-do list has conquered us, prevail over, get the victory of, be victorious over, triumph over, overpower, overcome, overthrow, suppress, repress, crush, bring someone to their knees, break. What was the other one? Defeat completely. Oh, I think that was the main one. Okay. So the point that I'm trying to make here, and I'm trying to find some more because there was some that were pretty like, I was like, I don't want to be any of these things. Devastate, oppress, grind down. So these are all synonyms of the word overwhelm. Okay. So I think it's safe to say that the intention of no one is to create a situation where you are overpowered, overwhelmed, crushed, defeated, uh, anything has victory over you. I don't believe that anybody sets out with the intention of feeling that way. But what I need you to know and understand that even though none of these words sounds like anything that anybody would want to create in their life or that they would want to experience, even though these words don't sound powerful or anything you want to create in your life, when you speak these words, you create that in your life. Okay. So I know you might say, it's not true. I'm not really like overwhelmed in the sense that you're saying I'm not crushed, I'm not broken, I'm not overpowered, right? I might say it, but it's not really true. And the fact that I like said it, I mean, that doesn't mean it's really gonna happen in my life. And I don't mean it like that, right? That's what some of you might be saying. Well, I want to tell you to tell it to the Lord. Take it to the Lord in prayer, okay? Because the word of God says the out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I didn't make this up. Take it up with Jesus, okay? Jesus basically is saying that people, like, we can judge people by what they say and what they do, right? And because what they say and what they do is the result and it reveals what's really inside of the person, all right? And so when you feel what happens in here will come out in your mouth, all right? So Jesus said, the word said, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of, all right? So not only does it create life, but it's coming from somewhere, all right? And it's not being judgmental to say that, but I guarantee you that if you're speaking like this, there's something here that is flowing from, and I didn't make that up, all right? The next thing I want you to know, so if you don't believe me, the word says, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. I didn't say it. Second, when you speak words that are what I call disempowering, right? They take the power from you. You are no longer powerful. Disempowering words take the power from you and it makes you a victim. It's like these things are happening to me and I really have no control over these things happening to me. So life is just happening and there's really nothing that I can do about it, right? So now it indicates that you are not powerful, that you don't have us like any sense of choice, right? And that all of these things are causing you to be a victim, right? You're thinking like a victim, and then that means that you're going to behave like one, like you're not going to really take action towards improving whatever the problem is. So when you take the time to think about what you're saying before you say it, right? Monitoring your language, what you create is an energy inside of you, a positive energy inside of you, which ultimately ends up governing the way you act or don't act, right? Because sometimes our words can paralyze us, immobilize us. So it's not always what we say and do. Sometimes it's what we say and we don't do. Because when I feel overpowered, I feel conquered, I feel, overwhelmed, then I don't think that I have power. I might not move. Okay. So our words have power. All right. So if that's true, why would we choose words that take away our power? All right. So you have the power to create with your words. All right. So you might be saying, Tanisha, I hear you with all of this, but if that's how I feel sometimes, you might say, what can I say when life really is life? Like I'm having some stress or some pressure in my life, and I do feel a little like I don't have control of things, I might feel a little rushed, right? So the first thing I want you to do when life is life and you do feel a little stressed is to watch your mouth. In the season when you are going through the go through, this is going to be the time that you have to be the most careful about what you say. So I want you to make a choice. I want you to make a decision to choose a more powerful way to express what you're really feeling. It's not denying what you're feeling, right? But you're just going to express it in a way that comes from the viewpoint of I have power, I have control, and I am capable of handling whatever these responsibilities are well. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what you could say. All right. You could say, instead of saying I'm overwhelmed, you could say, listen, I do not have all the answers today. I don't know all the answers to how to work through this, but I'm confident that I'm going to be able to figure this out. All right. So when you talk like that, it's not saying I got it all together, I got it all figured out, but it's saying I am confident in my ability with power through him to figure out what I need to figure out. Right. You could also say, okay, this is a challenge and I am working to overcome this challenge. All right. You can say, I'm confident that I'm going to accomplish this goal, or I'm determined that I'm going to figure this out. All right. You can create your own power words. So I want to give you like words to use instead of overwhelmed. Okay. Things you can say instead of I'm overwhelmed. Okay. So you could say, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I am confident. I'm positive. I'm encouraged. You could say, I feel uplifted. You could say, I feel victorious. I feel like I'm a winner or I'm winning. You could say, I'm in control. You could say, I am more than a conqueror. You could say, I am successful. You can say, I am undefeated. You could say, I am triumphant. All right. So those are just a few of the things that you could say instead of saying overwhelmed. If you don't like those, make up your own, okay? Anything but overwhelmed. Got it? All right. The other thing you could do is focus on one thing at a time. So I say this all the time. We live in a world that I don't know why. I have been guilty when I was much younger in my 20s. I really remember, I'll never forget it. I remember like it was yesterday, looking for a job. And on my resume, I was saying on the resume, I am a great multitasker. And the reason I was saying this is because I thought that would be the words I could use that could give me this job, right? But the more I thought about it, I was like, the truth is, I'm not a great multitasker. I can do one thing excellently with focus and I can move on to another. Now, there are some people who are excellent multitaskers. For me, that does create a feeling of defeat for me because I'm not able to truly give my attention to one thing. So I would rather, you know, do one thing, zone in on that, get that done, and go on to the next thing. Now that doesn't mean that I'm always doing it because there are times I'm a mother, I'm a wife. Sometimes I'm cooking, I'm on the computer. Sometimes I am, but I don't make it a normal practice, is what I'm saying. All right. So when you feel these feelings of pressure or stress or like something is overcoming you or it's just too much, you can choose to focus on more than one thing at a time. So a practice that I have is I take it all out of my head because I go through situations where I'm like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I'm listing all the things. And the first thing is if I say like I'm gonna do this, well, I need to start writing it down. So I do like a brain dump and just get it all out of here because keeping it in here lessens the potential for me to get it done. Okay. So I get it all out of my head. Once I get it all out of my head, then I give it a priority to it. Like, okay, this is a lot. What can I realistically get done today? And I might say, well, today I'm going to choose to execute on these three things. I'm going to put all my energy and all my effort into knocking these three things out. All right. So even though I have a whole lot, there are very few seasons in my life where I have nothing to do. That hasn't happened in maybe at least since I had children. Okay. It's been a while. So there's no time where I just literally have nothing that I could be doing. So even though I have a lot of things to do, I really can only truly focus on the one thing that I'm doing right now. And so if I do that, I'm going to feel better, right? So what you can do is decide what's the best action for me to take right now and do that thing with all you got, okay? The next thing you can do is to give yourself a little grace and understand that there are times in your life or seasons in your life that will be more jam packed with things for you to do. There will be more required of you in certain seasons, right? And this will pass. It won't always be this way, right? But the good news is once you overcome the challenge of all these things that you have to do, on the other side of that, you are going to be more capable, right? You will have learned to face a difficult season and overcome it. You will be stronger and you will be more confident because you did it. All right. And so give yourself grace and say, you know what? I actually do have a lot of things to do right now. Right. And this is just a season in my life that's requiring more of me, and I'm going to have to buckle down, but this is temporary and it won't be like this forever. This will pass. All right. And if you give yourself a little grace. All right. One thing I learned about that was creating this sense of overwhelm in my life when I felt this like pressure and this stress was I lacked the ability to say no. All right. So I would have a tendency for a season. I'm so healed. But there was a season in my life where I would say yes to things and yes to people for a variety of reasons. Okay. One was I wanted to be, it meant a lot to me that people knew that they can count on me, right? So I valued people being able to rely and depend on me, right? And so I never wanted to be the person to disappoint somebody by telling them no, right? But I had to take a long, hard look and I had to assess the commitments that I created and I agreed to for myself. So one thing I told myself is I'm only going to say yes to the things that I really, really, really want to do. Because understanding this yes to this means no to something else, right? So I had to start to be honest with myself about what I could realistically handle, what things I was doing because I really wanted to do them. So what was the condition of my heart? Am I just showing up to this thing because I told somebody I was going to be here, but I would rather be at home in my bed? Like, what is the reason that I have made the commitment? All right. I had to learn that everything wasn't meant to be handled by me. So you got to learn that everything is not meant to be handled by you. Everybody's emergency is not your emergency. Everybody's cleanup or fix is not your fix. All right. So you have to ask God, what are the things you should be focusing your attention on? I believe you show up authentically to the things that you really want to do, right? People will get the best version of me when I'm at your party or at your gathering or at your event or helping you because I really, really want to. All right. But when I show up and I really don't want to be here, I really don't want to be here. I would rather be somewhere else. I am not, even though I'm there, I am not presenting or bringing the best version of myself. So, what I had to learn to do to eliminate some of the overwhelm or the being overpowered by a superior force in my life is I had to learn how to say no to some things. All right. I also learned how to delegate. All right. Sometimes there are certain things, like there are things right now to this day in my house that don't necessarily look the way I want them to look. If it were up to me, I would do it a different way. But the truth is, I do not have the time, right? So I had to surrender a bit of control and I had to learn how to delegate things because everything is not meant to be handled by me. All right. The last suggestion I want to give you is learn to manage your time, learn to eliminate distractions. Um, People claim to have a lot to do, but we also spend a lot of time wasting time. All right. So identify what are the distractions in your life and cut them out. All right. Eliminate some of these distractions. There are times that things will come up. You do have to make an assessment of, okay, I'm foregoing, handling this responsibility that I have to do something. So I had a situation a couple of weeks ago where a good friend of mine called me. It was a spontaneous call, and a mutual friend of ours who lives out of the country was at her house. Man, we talked on the phone for like 2 hours, even though I had a to-do list a mile long, right? And there was a moment where I was kind of like, I got to get off this call because I have things to do. But we laughed. We talked about things that we hadn't talked about in, we've known each other multiple decades, right? Over 20 years. We went to college together. We laughed about things. We had a great time, right? And so I had to make a decision in the midst that the value of this conversation for this moment is it's a no to my responsibilities, which means I'm going to have to work harder tomorrow. But this time having this conversation is not necessarily wasted. All right. But if I did that every single night I'm getting a phone call and I'm yucking it up and I'm like, yes, because when I love to talk on the phone. So when I get deep into a conversation, if I do that every night, that's a distraction. All right. That's a deterrent. It's an obstacle. It's a barrier. It's a roadblock to my goals. And so I have to look at some of those things that I'm doing on a regular basis. All right. So it doesn't mean things won't come up that might take you away from what your responsibilities, but you need to look at what are the things that are distracting me. Do I have more time than I really allow myself to be held accountable for? Is there more time in this day? Is there something that I'm doing that's taking up time that could be better used on what I'm supposed to be focusing on? All right. Another hack that I want to give you is to create blocks of time for the tasks that you have to do. So commit to working on these tasks doing blocks of time. So I have a coaching program called Ready Set Habits, and in our coaching program, we do a co-working session. So tonight we actually had a co-working session, and the way it works is we all just come together in a dedicated space where we can work on whatever it is, whatever goal we're working on. It's just a space, right? But how we do it is we use a technique called the Pomodoro technique, and what I've noticed is it allows you to focus for a period of time, and you go really, focus uninterrupted in a zone on your work for 25 minutes. So before we start the session, we say, this is what I want to create, or this is what I want to complete in our first session, right? You tell everybody on the call what you're going to do. We work dedicated with music playing in the background for 25 minutes. And then we take a break. You share what you have done, and it's just something about it. You could literally do this yourself. You could get a timer, set it for 25 minutes, go in, uninterrupted. Put your phone on do not disturb. Go in, focus, and give it all you got for 25 minutes, right? Then you take a break and you can say, hey, I'm going to do, X amount of these sessions in a day. All right. Another thing you could do to manage your time better is to plan your day before you start. A lot of times when you wake up and you don't have a clear plan for the day will happen to you. You're not going to happen to the day because there are going to be things that just snatch because you don't have a direction or a focus. All right. So I just wanted to share these things with you guys today. So my 5 things that I want you to do when you really do feel like life is life and things are a little overwhelming for me. All right. Because that does happen. I want you to not speak the word overwhelm out of your life because of what it creates in your life, unless you're saying overwhelm in a positive way. And we're not going to speak it because when we speak it, our words have power. Our words have power. And when you speak, I want you to behave like what I'm saying has the power to create something. All right. So, one of my clients, we were talking today, and I've noticed how she'll say something and then she'll correct herself. And I'm so proud of her. I told her, I said, I see you. I see you making the adjustment, and I see you correcting your words, like being mindful of the words that you say. And I can guarantee you that if she's very intentional and keeps this up, in no time, like her perspective on some things is going to shift. All right. You got to watch your mouth. All right. You got to be mindful of your mouth. Okay. Don't get mad at me. The Lord said it. The word said life and death are in the power of the tongue. And it's so true. So you can have what you say you will have. You will create whatever you say. So if you speak overwhelmed, that's exactly what you will have. You will be conquered. You'll be overpowered by a superior force. And we could just stop there. What would be the superior force that would want you to create negative things in your life? And so you would speak something that would make the enemy, the one who wants to destroy your life, your words will be making the enemy, your adversary, the one who works against you and everything God wants for you. You're going to speak words that make the enemy superior to you and your God. We ain't got time to play. All right. So watch your mouth. That's number 1. Number 2, learn to focus on one thing at a time. Give focus, uninterrupted attention. Finish that thing and go on to the next thing. Identify what are the things that you realistically can get done and focus on what's the next best thing for me to do right now. with all the things that I have to do. As you're doing this, give yourself some grace and understand it might be a season of heavy responsibility. More might be needed of you in this season, but it won't be like this forever. Okay. So give yourself grace. Recognize your human limitations because you can only do any of these things with God's help. All right. So recognize your limitations and give yourself a grace. Give yourself grace for a season that requires more of you. Number four, learn to say no. Everything is not your responsibility. Everything is not supposed to be handled by you. God did not create you to save everybody in the world. He has people for saving some of these people that we're trying to save. All right. And learn how to ask for help and delegate where you at it. All right. And the last one is to manage your time. Cut out some distractions. You can use the Pomodoro method. You can plan your day before it starts, or you can block off times. All right. Listen, guys, I love you to life. Before I go, and I probably should have said this when I started, I want you to make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on that little bell so you can get notified when I go live. I for sure will be here every Wednesday with a new word that you can use or not use, all right, to create in your life, all right? Powerful words. So, what are your power words? So, before I go, words that you can use in the place of overwhelm. You can say, I'm hopeful, optimistic, triumphant, undefeated, uplifted, encouraged, winning, dominant, victorious, a conqueror, successful. Any of those things, not overwhelmed. All right. The last thing I want to say is every Thursday, I have a free webinar where I talk to you about how to overcome, like, what are the things that are standing in the way of you and your goals. So we're closing out 2023. We have about 11 days left in the year. We're closing out 2023. Every day still counts, even though there's only 11. If you sit there and you waste these 11 days, these are 11 days you could never get back. And there's some progress, some level of progress that you could have made in that period of time. So I want to invite you to attend my free webinar Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the way you can register is to go to happynewyearnow.com, key in your information, and you're in. You get a confirmation email to let you know where to join us, right? I love you guys all the way to life. And I just want to encourage you to use words that show the power that exists in you through God. It's not our power, it's the power that God has through us, all right? And we should use those words appropriately and not allow the one who intends to destroy our lives to be superior by using words that essentially create death or destroy our lives. All right. Love you to life. And I pray that you have an amazingly blessed evening. And I will see you guys next week.